Ahoy and good morning, everyone, or good evening, or whatever time it is where you are. Yeah, it's Jeff, aka Godless Scummer. This is just going to be a bit random today, and probably ain't going to make much sense any of this. I'm just essentially going to come on and talk about one or two things, I suppose, and sort of see if there's anyone actually shows up in the chat. I mean, I'll just whatever. I'll just maybe ask some questions, see what people's thoughts on the stuff are. So it'll be that kind of stream. So I just got myself a cup of coffee for the moment, and oh, that's nice. Nice bit of straight black coffee there. Which I find sort of helpful for doing this sort of stuff. And where to begin? Where to begin? I'll start with some good news about my self. Hi, native atheist. I'll start some good news. Actually, something a bit positive actually happened. I randomly decided to get on the scales last night, and to my surprise, I dropped almost a stone, and I was like, "Yes, that's good going." I'm quite happy with that. I don't sort of I don't weigh myself regularly, I guess. So, which I think you could get, it can be a bit, you can get a bit unhealthy if you start doing it on a daily basis or something like that. But it was a pleasant surprise. So it's like, okay, at least in the moment I've been heading in a decent direction in terms of my weight, even though I'm still overweight, but hey ho, so that's a good thing. I guess I'm gonna maybe just cover a couple of philosophical topics of this stream, really. And um, even though I've been sort of trying to delve into this stuff a bit, although I'm still by no means an expert. My last stream I did actually was quite a drunken stream where it was drunken philosophy nearly for 2 hours, and myself and Joe from Answers and Reason, where we kind of just live streamed from a pub, and it was it was a bit messy actually, but it was fun. We had a pretty epic pub crawl around around Bournemouth, between the two. Um, you know, yeah, I don't weigh myself. I don't even own a scale. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I guess that's good. I mean, I don't like to use the Dawkins scale, but that's another matter for another time. So but I might actually talk about the Dawkins scale at some point in the future. But I've got thoughts on it that I haven't entirely formulated, but I'm not keen on it. But as I said, yeah, I have been sort of delving into like philosophical topics a bit, and I guess trying to get with grips with a certain things because I want to get better at some of the arguments. Especially I think I'm one of these people. I think has become very aware in the last few months, at least, just how bad some of the arguments that a lot of atheists online are regularly using, and why I don't. Some of them I find really bad. I don't want to go over all these things again. I certainly don't want to go over the definition thing again because I almost feel like it's been done to death. The definitions argument, and my position's always been, my position is, hey, define it any way you fucking like. I tend that I no longer go by the merely lacking a belief definition. I'm more now that my position is I believe there are no gods, and I'm happy to state that that's a belief position. And that's just me. You just want to say I lack belief. That's, hey, fine, go with that. I'm not knocking you, but I don't go with that personally. And the only time I really even like will get into these arguments over that is generally when you know, um, generally when people are being prescriptive, telling me I've got to use the lack theist, well, yeah, for a lack of a better term, that's the term. I guess I've got to use that definition, and then when I actually say, well, no, I fucking don't, and there's more than one way to explain this, they then turn around and say that we're being prescriptivist, or the other. I mean, the one I really have fucking laugh at, and this has happened so often in the recent, is the you're an undercover Christian apologist. I'll Yeah, Nate Hafis, I need to dive more into philosophy. If I've been arguing with precepts a lot lately. Yeah, I think probably. See, I am in a Facebook group. I won't say what it is. That it's about. There's a lot of precepts in there, and a lot of, and I think there's a lot of atheists who maybe are not. I think it would be helpful if you're. It would be helpful to have a little bit of a philosophical grounding if you're gonna argue with pre-suppers. But I think which is I think it helps. I think it helps. And actually, which is good actually, because actually, first thing I'm gonna delve into a little bit today. I guess I I've never really tackled the morality question, even myself, or not that much privately, or let alone publicly. But I'm gonna maybe give thoughts on it today. And this is the whole like: is morality objective? Is it subjective? Um, I think that's an interesting conversation. Maybe one we perhaps don't need to not shy away from so often. Um, so okay, I found one article. I think this is some you know, and that is what is objective morality? What um can it teach us? So there is a for this art. There's the article I've been aware. Just want There's a content trigger warning that the article may mention some trauma related topics. I'll try and skip over them if I can with this. Um, I'm going to read this article out though. Morality is one of many reasons why humans are unique. We have beliefs and principles we try to uphold that can say a lot about us. Our morals may vary from person to person, but most of us share similar morals. We don't want to, kill, lie, steal, and so on. But there may be many reasons why we follow our morals, and it could be from a belief in God to the golden rule, well, which says, treat others the way you want to be treated. And okay, there might be a slight issue with this opening little statement. Morality is one of the reasons why humans are unique. I mean, there's definitely, I suppose, evidence and arguments could be made about animals showing, having a sort of some sort of a sense of morality. I mean, there's the famous clip of France de Waal was doing the TED talk about with the capuchin monkeys and so on. And sort of having a little, at least a basic grasp of fairness and so on. Hi, Peter. By the way, great to see you. So, but okay, that's a minor little nitpick though. But let's go on. There's been there's been a debate about how morality came to be, and we'll discuss subjective morality, the arguments for and against. And it says starts here. What is morality? There's many philosophical interpretations of morality, but to keep it simple, morality is our belief about what is wrong, what is right, and it comes to our behaviour. Morality can come from a religion, philosophy, or laws, or sometimes morality is black and white, meaning the behaviour is either fully good or fully bad. um, Religious morality tends to think this way. which yeah, I think so. I think generally, other times morality could be a little more grey. You know, lying, for example, lying isn't a good moral action, but there may be instances where lying will cause the least harm and therefore be more just. Which is, yeah, I don't have too much, um, you know, issues with that. You know, religious morality tends to think this way. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting because, yeah, I mean, but then, you know, how many times have we sort of seen the kind of apologists or whatever? Because when, you know, one of the favourite sticks that you know, a lot of atheists will use you know, to beat them with when, you know, defending morality, sort of biblical morality, shall we say? Let's use the Bible. So, you know, we'll bring up biblical slavery. Now, well, is slavery you know, is it always objectively been wrong? I would say it is something that that is objectively wrong. To me, it is something I feel that there is no justification for it at any time in um, you know, at any time. But you know, so to that so, but I tend to find, yes, I mean, yeah, apologists tend to you know, apologists do tend to get a bit flaky when you bring that thing up. You know, yeah, there you go. But okay, now what is objective morality in the simplest terms? It is the belief that morality is universal, meaning that it isn't up for interpretation. Some people may think of objective morality, for example, as commandments from God, while other people may think the universe has some objective rules we may follow. There are certainly some arguments for objective morality to be had. You know, once again, it says religious people will tend to define objective morality according to commandments of their gods. Other people look at some universal laws. For example, you know, murder is inherently bad. So that's, you know, this is their objective morality says that morality exists in nature. It's how we're programmed. Okay, that's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, actually, to be honest, native atheist. This is probably a one of those topics. If you're going to argue pre-suppers, you probably will have to get into, because the you know, the go to thing with any pre-supper, which they think is a gotcha, is to keep um is that they'll repeatedly go to the by what standard argument, and it's almost you know, it's that's a general thing with pre-suppers or whatever. You know, you know, it's a big thing of going to by what standard, by what standard, by what standard. You know, anyone who's had a, I just see Chris has perked at the chat, and he's had the I know he's had the discussion with the biggest asshole of all pre-suppers, Mister Daft Dawkins. Oh yes, I am wearing I'm actually wearing one of your heretical shirt. So nerdy saying your ethical system is purely subjective. I mean, I suppose you know, I mean, actually, there's a, you know, there is actually a, you know, you can say there's another article. I might go to it in a minute if we go down this, between, you know, morals versus ethics. Now, oh dear. Okay, so now the goes on to say the opposite of objective morality would be subjective morality, and it says that all of our morals are all human made and can vary from person to person. While there are strong morals shared by most of humanity, such as, you know, killings, and they say many morals are subjective as to whether or not they're correct. And so okay. I don't. Again, these are pretty. I think these are pretty lay explanations. You know, no, that's the biggest dick in which he's very proud of. He's very proud of the old BBC is RJ. So I just got to go off camera for 2 secs. We'll sort something out. But again, so like I said, these are pretty lay terms. I think that this article is using. It's using very basic language. And again, as I point out, I'm not a philosopher. I'm just sharing some thoughts on this one, and I'm just really, reading this and sharing some thoughts at this current time. Because I'm trying to get my head around some of these topics because I think they're worth delving into a bit because I think we've like, I want to get better at these I want to get better at these topics and I'd like to think most of my fellow atheists do as well, although I think some of them do very get stuck in it set in their ways on certain things. So but now, okay, so here's some of the arguments for objective morality. Okay, it says here, and starts off with the religious argument. And this is one who believes in God believes that our morals come from God, and God because of God, we cannot change. It can't be changed or questioned. This means that his morals are objective. While of course, there are many interpretations of religious texts, as well as many religious people tend to point out universal laws God has made, such as, for example, Ten Commandments is a good one, which is a good, which is fair enough one. But again, I mean, again, I think this kind of almost will go back to the thing, when you're having the argument with like a pre-supper or something that, um, and or even a lot of apologists, what was her bloody name? I saw her on the she's on the non sequitur show the other week. What's her fucking S.J. Thomason, atheist. I mean, I don't know if she was necessarily saying that atheism. It's a bit of a weird one. I could do a whole video on the fucking nonsense she was spouting the other night. But when that was necessarily saying atheists have no morals, but essentially it was sort of similar. Thing of atheistic systems lead to immorality, and then goes on to like look at communism, blah blah blah, as if communism is defined by atheism. And I've got news for SJ. I know religious people of numerous different faiths that subscribe to Marxism, um, including Christians and even in the few Muslims I know as well. So anyway, that's a side note, but I just thought I haven't forgotten about this shit S.J. Thomason was spouting the other night, but that's a whole fucking rabbit hole in its self because it was cringeworthy. Action and consequence. It says now there is secular arguments for objective morality as well. Proponents believe that there are many universal laws that make up some morals, such as murder, killing someone in cold blood, and not because of self-defense, is not morally justified to end a person's life. It hurts their family, makes you a monster. Proponents of objective morality would believe that to be the case. Yeah, and again, this is where he's saying, yeah, I know you are, Chris. And yeah, her argument is absolutely rubbish. And to be honest, she's actually quite ill informed on Marxism, actually, as well. She's very ill informed. And I get the feeling that everything she's ever Um, I'm sorry to hear that, Hopswatch. Get better soon, mate. Get better soon, mate. It's been too long since we've spoke, really. Um, but again, where was I? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's saying, yeah, murder in cold blood is objectively wrong. It's objectively not a moral action. And it is specifying here that this is in cold blood, not self defense. In murder in cold blood is objectively wrong. I mean, and then you can always possibly put some caveats on that, like, but how far do you really want to go with this stuff? I mean, like, but then you could argue that like, because I know some will say, like, if you're in one of, like, a saw game or something, you have to kill someone to. But again, that can necessarily not, that again isn't necessarily murdering in cold blood. It is to prevent something else or so, But whatever. But yeah, people will often put those kind of caveats on. Will try and expand upon that. So again, guys, who decides what is moral and who decides what moral is right? And it says, now, so if someone had a moral code that says murder and stealing are okay, who's to say they're wrong? The belief is that there has to be something or someone to govern what is right or wrong. And again, this is where a lot of the time the God arguments will come in, like, um, again, pre-suppers, by what standard, by what standard, by what standard. Um, and then but then again, like I said, it doesn't have to be a god. Secular laws and so on can dictate this stuff as well. So it's and again, you could almost say that there is an evolution to morality in this sense. So you know, it's we know we've, but it's more in a case of, though, that as our understanding of the world gets better, I mean, that we adjust, that we will adjust, our laws and moral codes to better fit that understanding. At least that's what we, like to think was what we are constantly striving towards. Um, but I don't necessarily know that that means that that um, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's subjective as such, though. I think I don't know. I don't quite know where I'm going with this, but it could still have always been. I mean, you could always say it's always, to me, it's always been objectively wrong to discriminate against people for being gay, for example, um, or would be an example like that. But we had a long, we could have but there was this long period of time when it was just thought of as some sort of perversion and not. But we now know, no, it's not. This is a very, it's not a moral perversion. This is a very natural thing. That not just humans, lots of species of animals. So there's, you shouldn't. But to me, so we come to understand that it is not in the best interest of our society to discriminate against people for being gay. I'm just throwing this out as an example, but was it ever right to discriminate against people for being gay, even when we didn't understand it? No, it wasn't. So, in that respect, I'd say that is an. I hope this makes sense, because I hope this makes sense to people. Because, like I said, I'm still trying to formulate some of this stuff in my own head. And I may be completely wrong on anything philosophical, and I'm sure if I'm sure at some point that Joe or Trolley Dave or someone who's a bit more well versed in philosophy is going to watch this and he'll be like, oh, you might be, I'm out to lunch on this, and not that they're going to say that discriminating against gay people is right. That's not what I mean, just to be clear. But whether my thought process is necessarily right on this or not. That's kind of what I'm getting with. Okay. Um, okay. But it's funny enough. This seems to preempt where we're going here. But that one of the arguments against objective morality is that morality always evolves, and the one argument against objective morality deals with the fact that we consider what we consider to be immoral and immoral does change within time, depending on where you live. And yeah, that's true. I mean, different countries with different morals, there might be some similarities. So, also as our laws change depending on morality, recently it would, you know, many would say it'd be immoral to smoke marijuana. Now, at least in some parts of the world, I'm guessing this is an American site. This is kind of shifting. Okay. Oh, now this next sections could be interesting. It says objective morality only covers human beliefs. Now, in the end, humans are one species. Now, while many religions believe we are the only intelligent species, and a creator is focused on our actions, while a more secular point may be to be that there may be other intelligent life out there. I don't understand why they're making a distinction that what there between the secular and religious on this question, because I think there's a lot of religious people that may believe there might be intelligent life out there outside of this as well. So I don't know why they're assigning that to religion and secularity. That doesn't, yeah, but even without, aliens or whatever, animals have different morals. Well, some animals eat their own as part of their life cycle. Almost all of us humans are disgusted by the idea of cannibalism, because this is a moral inconsistency found on this earth, and we also know it ain't fucking good for us either. So, ah, oh, good lord. Yeah, I'm going to try and skip through some of this because I didn't want to spend this whole stream talking about moral question, but it's and okay, but I'll try and go through this as quick as I can. Says what is a moral companion? Says look at murder. Again, in a society, murder is bad. However, there are cases when it say murder is okay. For example, wartime. You think shooting the enemy is not murder as you're defending yourself. However, plenty of wars have involved innocent civilians getting caught in the crosshair. There's rarely been punishment for that. Um, okay. I don't know if I really want to dissect that one at the moment. Um, that could be a minefield in itself. I'm going to be a bit of a might be a bit of a that might be a bit of a rabbit hole. I'm not really wanting to go down at this particular point with this. Now you can talk about stealing. This is universally seen as a bad thing to do. However, there are different situations where theft could be viewed less critically. Digital piracy is quite a heated debate as whether or not it's stealing. Sometimes even moral absolutes may change depending on the. Now, again, I don't think digital piracy is the example I would have gone to for this one. I would have said, look, it's you know, if you are starving, you and your family are starving, and and have no other option, is it morally okay to steal food? That might have been a more better question, I think, way they could have gone with that over than digital piracy. Yeah. uh Opinion that good can be subjective. And this is in, and again, let's assume that moment that we're talking about someone who's religious. I think what makes um, is morality judge. Yeah, okay. Hold on, let me read this properly. Those who say morality is objective will turn to their gods. Um, Again, this is assuming that someone it's only religious people that have the objective morality argument. Let's assume for a minute that the God of their religion is real. What makes morality objective? Because he is God. This appears to be an argument based on authority, and it raises a few questions. Is a God-given law moral because it's from God, or because God makes us do it? Now, it says, let's not forget that many interpretation of God and his morals, even in the Bible, may ignore mm, some morals and enforce others. It all depends on who is practicing the religion and what they believe. Yeah, which is very true. We're very, very true. Again, we could go back to the whole when they all say that being gay is immoral, and then you can bring up in the same as the and I believe that they always quote from the book of Leviticus, and you can point something else out from the book of Leviticus itself, like I think like the shellfish argument, or I don't know, is mixed fabrics Leviticus? I'm not sure. Remind me, someone. And then they'll go to, oh yeah, but that was cultural law. That isn't, that was Jewish culture. So you see the little tap dance that an apologist will do with that, for example. This is quite a common one. Now, the concept of objective morality is quite interesting. Now, is it only limited to the religious? Okay, fair enough, because I did actually criticize him. It says, are there certain morals that are objective as you study objective morality and subjective morality? It does make you think quite a bit. We take a lot of our morals and laws for granted. We don't exactly think about their origins, or that sometimes a moral can be debated. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in the middle, where there are, some morals that don't change and some that do. Um, this is what it makes it so fascinating to be a human, that we find that moral and immoral can differ. And it's interesting to read about the many different interpretations of what is and what is not moral. Okay, I'm gonna stop that article there, but I think that's it. Raised some interesting questions. You know, Tusk, stop it, bad Tusk, bad Tusks. People know how much I fucking hate that argument. it's, it's too early in the year for that. Okay, it's just we only had this argument again a few months ago. It's too early in the year for the annual rocks debacle. Bad Tusk. I think he's yeah. I People know I just loathe that rocks are atheists argument. I really do. Mm. Yeah, I'm going to say your chances of being allowed a dragon on this channel are, it isn't just Crafty who's going to ban you from dragons, Tusk. You'll be banned from dragons here if you do the rocks thing. Okay. Okay. So I think I've done the um I've done morality. There's another thing I was going to do. I was going to read out this thing that um this I've got been reading through this a bit. This Atheism: The Basics by Graham Oppy. And this is and this is good. This is a good little book, I think, for starting to dive into some philosophical topics. And what was I'm trying to think of what. And it's got a good little thing. It's got a good little thing in here about it starts with definitions and a little bit of history, some facts and figures, or whatever. Common complaints about atheism. Yeah. Ah, okay. This is an interesting one. Should we do this one? Because I was actually talking about this. Because I was talking about this about the nonsense S.J. Thomason was spouting, wasn't I? Okay, common complaints about atheism. I think let's have a look at this. 5.2, atheists are political ideologues. So, shall I read this little excerpt from Graham Oppy's book here? I think we should do this because this might this might actually address some of the nonsense SJ was saying. So many of the world's atheists are Marxists. Marxism is a family of explicitly atheistic political ideologues. However, there is sense in which it is a mistake to suppose that the opposition of religious belief is central to Marxist thought. At the dawn of the 20th century, uh, you know, so now and again, I think he's doing this to make a you sort of again, he's not saying that all you know atheists are Marxists. This is like against I guess this is like you said, common complaints. This is arguments you will hear. Okay, just so people know. Now, 1905, Lenin wrote the following. We shall probably have to follow the advice Engels once gave to the German socialists to translate and widely disseminate the literature of the 18th century French enlighteners and atheists, but it would be stupid to think that religious prejudice just could be dispelled by purely propaganda methods. We do not and should not prohibit proletarians who still retain vestiges of their old prejudices from associating themselves with our party. The revolutionary proletariat will succeed in making religion a really private affair so far as the state is concerned. Um, that's Lenin, which doesn't, you know, it's, yeah, I know. This is what I know. It's Aaron tends to do the rocks thing again. And I agree with native atheist. Yeah, he's not. He is good. He's got his strengths and his weaknesses. I think. Okay, in the in the immediate aftermath of the Russian Revolution, Bukharin and Prespolensky, 1922, faithfully echoed the much earlier claims of Marx and Engels as a transition to from socialism to communism, the transition from society which makes the end of capitalism to the society which is completely freed from all traces of class division and class struggle will bring about the natural death of all religion and superstition. Which again, this is something Bukharin wrote, but he said now it goes on. While Lenin, Bukharin, and Prespolensky were implicitly opposed to any involvement of religion in the running of the state, they believed, as Lenin said, that everyone must be absolutely free to profess any religion he pleases, or they could have, you know, believed that something resembling an article of faith that religion, yet like the state itself, would wither away in full time. Yet, so long as the state remained in existence, so too would ecclesiastical and religious societies, but only as free associations of like-minded entities. They were entirely and financially and you know organizationally independent of the state. So I guess You can't super chat because I don't have enough subscribers yet to get to be monetized. Native atheists, but you could find me another 555 subscribers really quickly. You can super chat. You could, so yeah. So if you people could help get me to the 1,000. So independent of the state did not any way threaten to impede the flowering of the dictatorship of the proletariat, which again, that's a long thing to get into. If we look at the fundamental explanation of the atrocities committed by communist states, we find it not in those states' commitments to atheism, but rather in their commitment to doing whatever it takes, in that case, to make that workers' control of means production. Um, And okay, so we go to the other one here. Okay, this is what Graham Oppy now goes on to talk about. It's sometimes stated that Nazis are atheists. This claim is probably false. There's a broad scholarly consensus that the core of Nazism is racist social Darwinism, eugenics, and particularly virulent anti-Semitism. But there's no similar consensus when it comes to the religious commitments of Nazis. Will I get take? Will the stream keep come down if I keep saying that word? I don't know. Some scholars could claim that they were committed to polytheistic, Volkish neo-paganism, and some hold that they were deists. Some say that they were adopted, sacralization of blood, nation. Most recently, Wake Up 2016 argues that they were pantheists. When we sit simple Mr. H's writings and speeches, we can find what looks like support for the attribution of each of these positions to him. We've also cannot find what it's kind of support for that claim. He was committed to idiosyncratic kind of Christianity, but it is clear that he was no friend of this guy was no friend of the Christian churches either, that he was contemptuous of many mainstream Christian teaching. However, if Nazis were pa- pantheist deists or committed to polytheistic neo-paganism, then they weren't atheists. And even if they were, you know, merely adoptees of the sacralization of blood and nation, it is unclear whether or not it brings some kind of commitment to the existence of gods. It is perhaps reasonable to conjecture they were they were deists. Some were deists, some were pantheists, some were neo pagans, some were sacralizers of blood and nation, and some, were at least nominally Christian, and some. So it's saying, they fell into more than one category. But if that's the case, would they be drawing a very long bow to suggest that atheism played a significant role in the atrocities that they committed? Yeah, no worries, Tusk. There is a social scientific data about the atheism and political affiliation. Um, and though we must treat the idea that this data with some care, there is at least also some scientific data about the lack of religious affiliation and political affiliation, and about the atheism and agnosticism and political affiliation, according to Lipka 2016. 2015, a US survey suggests that shows that 15% of atheists are Republicans, 69% are tend towards Democrats, and the remaining 17% are independents, or would say, or would say, like according to Luke 2012, the US, 13% of atheists and agnostics are conservatives, 32% are moderates, 51% are liberals, and remaining 4% were, in the other. Um, in the US, there's fairly strong correlation between atheism and left leaning liberal politics, but nonetheless, there are significant numbers of atheists who are right-leaning and conservative in their politics. Indeed, Lugo et al. Provide a breakdown for atheists and agnostics according to their party allegiance and their broader political leanings. Those these data show that the majority of Republican or Republican leaning atheists are conservative or moderate, while the majority of Democratic or Democratic leaning atheists are liberal. This data is highly problematic for anyone who wants to claim that atheists are political ideologues, given that atheists have significant representation right across the political spectrum. It seems that uh, it seems that anyone who holds to the idea that atheists are political ideologues will end up committed to that claim, that we're all political ideologues. But if we're all political ideologues, then there's no differential criticism of any group that they are political ideologues. Yeah, actually, I just thought I'd pick that one out, a little bit at random, because I saw that and I was thinking that actually addresses what I was the nonsense S.J. Thomason was fucking spouting the other night, and you know, yeah. So I thought that was interesting. So I thought that was interesting. I might actually like draw on that draw on that again, because I've been thinking of doing some deep doing an actual debunk of the crap SJ was saying. And I get the feeling that anything she's actually ever read about Marxism in a whole comes from comes from very much looks like books that were written in the sort of McCarthyite era. But again, but that's a different topic for a different day, I think. But I thought that was one that was worth that was one that I thought was worth exploring. This is a good little book. I really actually says this is a good little starting point. I think it's but that was one of from the section called common complaints, which is the sort of thing that you'll hear, sort of think criticisms of atheism you'll really hear, and that was one of them. Now, hmm, here's an interesting one here. Now, I haven't read this bit yet, but let's read this together. Atheism. This is so we're going to change gears a little bit here, but I'm going to read another little bit out of Oppie's little book here. And this is atheism is the default position. Now, it'll be interesting to see what he says here, because there's a bit of an argument about this. Some atheists claims that there's an initial presumption of favor in favor of atheism. Before we turn to consider data, we should suppose that there are no gods. Some atheists make the claim that there is a burden of proof that falls on theists unless theists can point to sufficient reasons, compelling evidence, and cogent arguments to support that claim that there are gods. Theists have no entitlement to that belief, but atheists are under no corresponding obligation to point out sufficient reasons, evidence, arguments that supports the claim that there are no gods. This is interesting. This is interesting. Lost my spot. Okay, sometimes it is said that what is true for the idea that there are gods is true for existence in claims in general. There is an initial presumption against all existence claims, i.e., claims of those that are there from F's and burdens proofs that fall upon those who wish to defend existence claims. All of these claims are mistaken, and in the previous bit, he noted that When we assess the comparative theoretical virtues of best consistent big pictures, we are interested in trade offs that they make between minimalization of theoretical commitments and maximization of explanatory breadth and depth. While this claim means that we are interested in the minimalization of theoretical commitments, and in particular that we are interested in minimalizing the number of claims from there and the F's that we accept, that we are also interested in the maximalization of explanatory breadth and depth. Moreover, what we really want to do is make the best trade off between minimalization of theoretical commitments and maximalization of explanatory breadth and depth. There is nothing in this methodological framework that says of particular claims that there are F's, and that the prior to consideration of total relevant data, we should expect that they do, or that they do not belong to the best consistent big pictures. There is no initial presumption against existence claims. We can be sure in advance of the consideration of data that is the very best big pictures will include lots of existence claims. Moreover, there is no burden of proof that falls asystematically upon those who accept this certain existence claims, no matter which big picture we favour. We are all subject to make the obligation and the best trade-off between minimalisation of theoretical commitments and maximalisation of explanatory breadth and depth. Okay, so essentially, layman's terms, atheism is the default position is not the way to go when having these arguments, and that and just to say that only one side has a burden of proof is another. I prefer to call it burden of justification. Um, you know, it's not just that it's what they say. It's not good enough to sort of for us to like sort of saying put all. It's not good enough to sort of say I lack a belief, or I do not have a belief in God, but I have no reason to justify that position, I think is what he's saying. So that's perhaps a little bit against the atheism being the default position. Um, Yeah, I'd actually say that probably is if there is a default position, it would probably be agnosticism. If there, like not accepting the claim one way or the other. If there is now, I'm sure people who are a bit more versed in this will probably say no, 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 they've got a burden of justification as well. I know. In, interesting, interesting. But yeah, actually, all joking aside, that's probably a much better default position to be holding, nerdy, in a certain respect. I think it's interesting because I do think we may need to get out of the burden of proof falls strictly on the theist a little bit. Depends on the way they're making the claim. To be honest, it depends very much on the on the situation. Um, so I'd say, I mean, and the nature of the claim. I mean, like if somebody like Kent Hovind or whatever are saying like the Earth is 6,000 years old, and the Bible is a literal interpretation of history and science. Yeah, and then so in that case, the burden of proof is on him. I think in that situation, um, it's interesting. I'd say again. I'd say really when we talk about philosophy, I think there's maybe more burden of justification is more something I tend to go with that I think we've got a burden to try and justify our position. I mean, well, I don't think we can prove. I don't think it's realistic for us to be able to prove that there is no God. I don't think it's certainly scientifically we can't do that. Science doesn't take a position on that. But can we do justification based on probability of existence of God? Yeah, I think we could probably go down those lines. Okay, I've been waffling on now for almost an hour. Um, I'm gonna call it a day, I think. But yeah, just I might do just some more stuff like this every so often. Just come on and philosophical waffle, could call it. um, but yeah, so I just want to cover several topics today, and um, I might actually change the name of the stream in a minute to Scummer's Philosophical Waffle. So, okie doke. It's been Jeff, aka Godless Scummer. So see you all later. All right, salute.